Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Oh, one of the loudest. All right, so we're holding by 6 lines from the bottom. Omer Rav Yosef. So we had a muslig again. Oh, here's the muslig. Rabbi Isai. In the middle of Shiur, Dave threw it in. It was Givaldi because I forgot about Nipul. What in the world is Nipul? Go ask people in Shul, do you know about Nipul? They'll say no. So you say, you got to join the Daf. Because if you only came to learn that one muslig, every day we're learning new musligim. Nipul. Nipul is when an animal dies, the dangling limb is considered as if it fell off right before the Misa. Nipul. We consider it as Ever Min HaChai. Do we say that by Misa? And only by Misa, or also by Shechita? The difference is, if you shecht an animal, and the dangling leg is considered part of the animal, and the Shechita is a good Shechita, so the Shechita is Metaret, it's no longer an Avela. If it falls off a moment before the Shechita, then it's Ever Min HaChai. So the Gemara says over here, Omer Rav Yosef, Nekoite Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, B'yadach, what Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef said yesterday, that when it comes to Shechita, it's perfect. Shechita loy oisa nipul. Meaning, it's afuch al afuch, it's, what's the word? Counterintuitive, exactly. Counterintuitive almost, in the way we read it. Shechita loy oisa nipul. In other words, it doesn't do anything wrong. It's great. Shechita is great. It has an effect on the animal like a regular Shechita. This leg was shechted. And Misa does do nipul, so a moment, if the animal just drops dead from a heart attack, then a moment before it died, its foot detached, and it's Ever Min HaChai, not Nevela. As Rashi says on top of here in Daf Ayin Daled Amud Aleph, it's another nafkamina. Yesterday I was telling you a different nafkamina that Rashi says over there, that the nafkamina is if a piece of meat falls off of Ever Min HaChai, it's not Matama. But if it falls off a Nevela, it's still Tameh. But Rashi over here says another thing. We know that when you Adam warn somebody, don't do an Aveira, you have to know what they're warning. You can't warn somebody not to kill someone and say, hey, don't be Mechal Shabbos, and he's a murderer. When somebody's about to eat something, you have to say, don't eat an Ever Min HaChai. You can't tell them, don't eat an Avela. You have to say the proper words.
It can't be a Suffolk Asra.
It has to be a real Asra, not a Suffolk Asra. It has to be the proper Asra. If we're dealing with Ever Min HaChai, so it's Ever Min HaChai. You have to say, hey, if you eat this Ever Min HaChai, you're going to get Malchus. If you use the wrong words, you say, hey, if you're going to eat this Lakshin Kogel, you're going to get Malchus. It doesn't work. If you're going to eat Nevela instead of Ever Min HaChai, it doesn't work. Anyway, the Rabbi Bar Bachana Koikav will say, because Rabbi Bar Bachana holds like that also, the Sanya, because we learned. There's an extra word here. It says, Basar basada treifa loisechelu, don't eat meat in the field, treifa, don't eat. It should say, in the field, treifa, you shouldn't eat. What's basar? This case of a dangling limb and you shechted it, shenasturin. Oh, so that would sound like that shechita does do nipul. But then he continues. This is the Rabbi Bar Chana says exactly like Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Omer Reb Yochanan, in the name of Reb Yochanan, on top of Ayin Daled Amud Aleph. This is not a Deiraisa. This is the Rabbanon. Stay away from this dangling limb. Meaning that, of course, Midiraisa, there's no issue to eat this dangling limb. The Rabbanon said you shouldn't eat it. But if Midiraisa, there's no issue to eat it, so Midiraisa, the Shechita worked and it took away the tumor from this dangling limb. It has an effect. Shechita, ein oisa nipul. Rav Yosef Kamed Rav Huno, Yosef Kamar. Rav Yosef, who later on in this story is going to get upset, he was sitting there, and he said, Omer Rav Yehuda Omer Rav, the famous Talmud of Rav and Shmuel, Rav Yehuda, he says in the name of who? Of his famous Rebbe Rav, the Goladar. He says in the name of Rav, if you eat this dangling limb, you get Malchus. In other words, there's an Issa Deraisa here of Ever Min HaChai on a dangling limb. The problem is that somebody's going to say in a second, in the name of Rav, the exact opposite, that there's no Malchus. So we have a contradiction. So one of the Rabbanim over there said, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Rav didn't say that. Also in the name of Rav. Mamish a contradiction. What do? You're stuck. Rabbi Yehuda, the famous Rabbi Yehuda, he's not going to make a mistake. He says, I heard Rav say that if you eat a dangling limb, you get malchus. Not a derabbanan like the top line over here. This is Mamish Deraisa. But I heard in the name of Shmuel Bar Marta, in the name of Rav, you don't get malchus. What should we do? He tells, it was Rav Yosef and Rav Huna sitting there. So Rav Huna turns to Rav Yosef and says, what should we do? We have a contradiction. For what you said, Rav Yosef. Adrinu Rav Yosef La'ape. He was furious. He turned his head away in anger. I found it 4 times in Shas. In Sukkah, and in Obakama, in Brachas. This lashon about Rav Yosef. Adrinu Rav Yosef. Omar Lein Rav Yosef says, he explains, my kushi, it's not even a question. It doesn't even start. Yamri, I know, we just discussed. There's 2 things that were discussed. Misa and Shchita. The death, dropping dead from a heart attack and getting shechted. They're 2 different halachas. Yamri, I know, but Misa. When an animal dies with a dangling leg, you're right. Misa ois nipul. That we said. And it's considered an Eber Menachai. On Eber Menachai, you get malchus. Ois nipul. Kamayiu b'shchita. But Rabbi Yehuda, in the name of Rav, was talking about something else completely when it was shechted. They know ois nipul. We just established the koit. The Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef biyadach. You should grab this, go with it. That when there's a shchita, it's a perfect shchita. We don't say that the dangler fell off a minute ago. No, it was on throughout the shchita. The shchita works. Amar Rava Amena Milsad Amar Rabbanan. Misa is the nipol, shchita eino is the nipol. How do I know this idea that there's a difference between death and shchita? The siv, the choil, asher, yipol, olav. This is a passage referring to shrotzim. It says about the shrotzim, the chol asher yipol, olav. If one of these 8 guys falls onto anything, falls on a loaf of bread, on a kli, the chol asher yipol, olav mehem b'moisam, when they're dead, yitma. Should become tummy. So what's this v'chol, everything? Lemutei mai, what does it come to exclude? Ilema lemutei b'chayem. If a mouse, that would be terrible, if live mice touch your kalim, and you live in a place that they have mice, here in Eretz Yisrael, it's not so common, unless you live like on the first floor or something. But usually, it's not a thing. In America, it's very common. It's Brooklyn, Far Rockaway, it's all... over here they have lizards. Lizards are even more tummy. You're right. But they don't come into your house usually. If they're alive and they touch your things, don't worry about it. It doesn't become tummy. How? Because people says, no, but I don't need a pasuk for that. Minivlasam nafka. It says, the nevela, they're dead. El Shmami, so what do I do with this pasuk? El Shmami, no, misa oistenipol ve'ein shchita oistenipol. How do I learn that from here? So for that, you need Rashi. Rashi says beautiful. Yipol, we're talking about nipol. You see our boy side. Through the misa, the nefila happened. When they die, then their dangler becomes a fallen item and it becomes a Eber Menachai. How are you jumping, making the jump from a sheretz, from a mouse and a lizard, to a cow? A sheretz, there's no shchita, we're talking about shchita, loy oistenipol, misa oistenipol. There's no shchita by a sheretz. He says, yeah, you're right, there's no shchita by a sheretz. But what are you going to do? We have a beautiful limud here, and I can't use it for a sheretz, I'm going to have to use it for the cow. This is a common musig in the Torah. If there's a limud and I can't use it here because it doesn't apply here, I'm going to use it for another place. Listen to this. It's a chiddush. What kind of rat, what kind of mouse is metama? Only a fresh, juicy mouse. If it's dried up, nothing. That's a chiddush. I need a pasuk for that. If the mouse is dried up, what is it called? Like a dry, not a dry litvak. Yeveshim, no tumah, no tumah. Says the Gemara, Trey b'moizim Stevie. Listen to this here. Eilat b'moizim. It says b'moizim. So I have 2 limudim. You need a limud for dried out mouse. you got a b'maisam. You need a b'maisam for our sugya, you have it. So you have trei b'maisam. Amar Rav Chisda. Machlokes, the famous machlokes that we've been discussing in the Mishnah of the animal, let's go back to this, animal that stuck its leg out and you shechted the mother, and then you cut the leg off. Does the tumah from the leg transfer over to the rest of the fetus? Machlokes be'evid uber chai. When the fetus is alive, then it works. It's like the mother, it's alive. The shechita transfers over, doesn't transfer over. The shechita of the mother doesn't have an effect on a dead fetus. It's something else, a different min. And therefore, once you shech the mother, then it's considered as if this limb fell off before and it's ever menachai. There's no difference between whether the animals are alive or not. Ben Shmoyna Chai. So we had in the Mishnah a very long discussion. We should actually try to see this Mishnah inside. It's long, easy. Benayin l'treifa, where the red line here. I'll blow it up here a little bit. The Mishnah talks out. There's a back and forth in the Mishnah. And it's important to know this Mishnah. Benayin l'treifa shechitasim mitarasa. How do you know that when you shecht an animal that has a treifa, like we're going to see a piece of meat from the treifa, it turns out that our sheep was mamish a treifa. How do you know that when you shecht it, it removes the tumah? Says the Mishnah, Behema tmei asur b'achila, af treifa asur b'achila. You have a horse, it's also to eat. A treifa is also. Ma behema tmei ein shchitas mitaros af treifa loy tetareno. So says the Mishnah, what's the difference between a lion that you shecht? It's not going to work, the shechita, so it shouldn't work on a treifa. So the Mishnah goes into, a non-kosher animal, you can never shecht it. Not even one moment in its life was it kosher. But a treifa, at one point in time in its life, you were able to shecht it. So right away the Mishnah asks, what if it was born with a treifa? A non-kosher animal doesn't have in its min, no lion could ever be shechted. And then the Mishnah says all the way at the end, and this is where we're holding now in the Gemara, Ben Shmoyna Chai. What if it was born in the 8th month? Like a human being that's born in the 8th month, in the time of the Gemara, was not a viable child. An animal is born in the 8th month. Ein shchitatoi mitaharasoi. The shchita does not give it any tahara. And what does the Mishnah finish off in red? Lefi she'ein b'minoi shchita. There is no such thing as 8-month-old in the 8th month of pregnancy, a shchita. There is no such thing. The Gemara is going to ask a contradiction that says mefurish yesh. We're saying ein, and at our Mishnah it says lefi she'ein b'minoi shchita, and we're going to see where it says yesh b'minoi shchita. Says the Gemara Vatanya. Now, the reason why I read the whole Mishnah is because that this brisa is actually a continuation of the Mishnah. It doesn't agree with our Mishnah, and it continues on with the argument. Vatanya ben Shmoyna Chai she'af al pi sheyesh b'minoi shchita ein shchita mitaharasai. You can shecht it, but it doesn't do anything. But in our Mishnah it says what it meant is in the brisa, yesh b'minoi, not it itself, through its mother. The mother you could shecht, and it would have affected the uber. So that's considered yesh b'minoi. He doesn't agree to that. That's the mother. We're talking about the actual vlad, the uber, the fetus. In the fetus, there's no min. What are you telling me? The mother could have done it. We're not talking about the mother. Well, like Tana the parich, and the Tana that does say it's a good child. So at the end of the day, he doesn't have a source to tell us where you know that a treifa, when you take, in our case, we shechted a sheep next door by Prussian. And he opens it up and he says, bad news. Treifa. How do you know that animal, and we have a piece of meat I'm going to show you from that animal, a nice sized piece, it doesn't have any tumah. Doesn't have tumah. Why? Because we shechted it. But it's treif. You can't eat it. A Jew cannot eat it. He called up afterwards and he said, listen, not only the sirkas that I found, but there's something I forgot. I don't even know what it is. It's treif. Don't feel bad. It's not a b'di'evet treif. It's a mamash l'chatchila treif according to everybody. Treif, mahadrin treif, he said. So, but there's no tumah. But how does he know it? Nav kalim the Reb Yudam Rav. He learns it from Rav. Omar Rabbi Yudam Rav. V'amri lo b'mastisatan. He says something. He says in the Bryce. Omar kro. V'chiyomos mina behema. This animal dies from the animal, from min. So you learn mixas behema mitamo, mixas behema eno mitamo. Some animals give off tumah, some don't. What does that mean? If it dies naturally, then there's tumah. But if you shechted it, even though you can't eat it, la halach is the same thing as the other tray, as the nevela. No, but it doesn't give off tumah. Boy, Rabbi Shaya, it's very important this because on the bottom of this Amud, we're going to see that Reb Meir holds there is no ben pekua on a 9-month baby. Once the animal's full term, ben pekua expires. Ben pekua is anything up until full term. An 8 month, a 7 month, not a 9 month. But Chacham argue, they say any age. Oh, so you go into a full term baby, and you shech the baby in utero, or however you say it. Utero, whatever. I don't know how to say it well. Tiboiler, questions according to everybody. Remeir says that a 9-month baby, a full term, needs shchita. When it was born, it comes into the ear of the world. But what if you go into the mother? It doesn't work, the shchita. Of course this animal needs shchita, but it doesn't work in utero. But maybe you could go even according to Rabbanan that say that this animal doesn't need a shchita. Why? Because it's a ben pekua, and if you shech the mother, it's enough. But maybe Rabbanan hold, maybe there's 2 ways to shech this animal. One way is to shech the mother. The other way is to shech it. Says Reb Toshma, and it says in our Mishnah that if this animal, and I even read it now, it was born a treifa in the stomach. So they didn't have a shasa kosher. The Mishnah said it never was able. You couldn't shech it. Why? It was born with a treifa. The Gemara understands now that treifa happened moments before it was born, days before. But it wasn't created with a treifa. It became a treifa later on, but it was born with a treifa. But this animal was born. What's today's date? July what? July 13th. July 13th is born with a treifa. But on July 10th, it didn't have a treifa. So maybe on July 10th, you could have gone in to the stomach and shechted it then. So it did have a moment of shasa kosher where you could have shechted it 3 days earlier. According to you, so you see from here, you can't go into the stomach. That's not considered shasa kosher. No, there's an animal that never had, not July 10th, not July 1st, not 4 months before. Why? Because it has the extra limb. When it's created with the extra limb, it's on the spot a treifa. Why? Kol yeter k'natul dami. If you have an extra limb, it's as if you have 1 minus. Not only you don't have 5, you only have 3, not 4. You have 3. So, 8 month fetus is not a full term, so it's not a problem. This is a typical ben pekua. Even if it's, I thought this is a big chiddush. A lot of people thought it's a chiddush. If you find a dead baby inside a mother after you chef, you're allowed to eat the dead baby. Allowed to eat it. You hear my agreement? I know it's gross, but you're allowed to eat it. Chai, okay. Chai is interesting also. It's walking around. It's a year or 2 years old. You take a bat, knock it over the head, and then you start eating it. So you don't need shchita. Oi, ventation mace. Or in the 9th month, full term, but it's dead. Koiroi, you rip it open. You don't even have to shecht it. You just tear it open, and you start eating. But, says the Mishnah, moitzi is damai. So think about this for a second. An animal has a bunch of things that are no good about it. You can't eat the blood, you can't eat the chaylev, the fats, you can't eat the gid anasha. So now the Mishnah just told us the secret, you cannot eat the blood of a ben pekua. What about the fats? What about the gid anasha, you allowed to? Maybe those things, yes. Matzah ben tishachai. What if it's a full-term baby? So Reb Meir is going to say, Ton shchita. According to Reb Meir, you can't do ben pekua. Now you need a shechted. V'chai ba'isiv es benoi. That's next perek. There's a mefurish pasuk that says that you cannot eat a mother and her offspring on the same day. You're not allowed to eat it. That's next perek. Since the baby, the fetus, is not part of the mother, so you're not allowed to eat both of them on the same day. If it's part of the mother, you could shecht one, and the other one becomes shechted automatically. It's as if you shechted it. It's one. It's like eating the leg of the mother. You're allowed to eat it in one day. Chacham say no, even if it's a full-term baby in the 9th month, it's okay. Reb Shimon Shizuri, we're going to have to understand what he adds, Reb Shimon Shizuri. This animal is a full-term animal, and it's plowing away in the field. You could 5 years ago, you shechted the mother, you walk over to him, you kill it and eat it. What if you didn't shecht the mother? You just killed an animal with a gun, and then you look inside and you see a baby. Maybe I'll think that's a ben pekua, you don't have to shecht it. No, ton shchita. It's only because you shechted the mother. Omar Reb Elazar, I know it's late over here. Oh, we had a late start. Omar Reb Elazar, what a ben pekua accomplishes is only one thing, that you don't have to shecht it. Lemute mai. Lemute, where's my meat here? Oh, wow. Lemute. Chel boy v'gidoy. The fat and the gid anosha. So the chaylev. Chel boy demai. So Rashi takes out these words completely. He says it's impossible. He says a very stark lashon. He says, Aval pi shuhu b'chol asfarim. You see this gears in all the Gemaras. Emes adover shu shibush. It's 100% a mistake. There's not one chacham that can make sense with this line. We're going to see the same thing he does in the next Gemara. He says, take it out. Tyson says, you don't have to take it out. But Rashi doesn't say on the next Gemara, there's no chacham in the world. Over here he says, there's no chacham. Nobody could explain it. The only way to explain this line is because there's an identical Gemara in Perek Gid Anosha, and by mistake, they took the same words of that sugya and put it over here. A shibush, a mistake. So it says, the point is, miflag pligi. That's a machlokes if you're allowed to eat the chaylev and the gid. The time you get anosha, noig b'shlil, v'chel boy, aser. Shlil is the fetus. And by the way, just as a side note, because we're writing Sefer Torah now, all klaf of all stam, like Sefer Torah, Tzil Mezuzah, is all written from a shlil. Meaning, we were in the factory, we saw them. If you ever noticed, the Sefer Torah, it used to be a whole thing, I could do Hagva. Today, even a 50-year-old could do Hagva. It's garnished. Why? Because it's half the weight, because we use shlil. So, Gid Anosha Noig B'Shlil V'Chel B'Yaser. That's one man. Rameir says that it's also to eat the chaylev. As Gemara is going to explain, Rameir holds that the mother and the fetus are not connected. So if they're not connected, it's real chaylev, real gid. It's not true. The gid anosha is mutter. You let eat a gid anosha. Here's a question: how you let eat a gid anosha? You let eat a gid anosha of ben pekua and the chaylev of a ben pekua. You see, that's why the guy in Australia wanted to make ben pekua farm, because there's no problem with gid anosha, there's no problem with chaylev, there's no problem with treifa, nothing. All the problems go away. He says, Meir hold in the 9th month, the full term. Meir says it's a regular animal. You can't do a ben pekua, so therefore it's a regular animal. Chaylev is aser, gid anosha is aser. He says no. Here Rashi takes out these 4 lines. Elachel be the gid niflik pliga the side. You get anoshim mechat dachra b'chol makom shu. V'chodesh shmonoi me'i karoi. Where are my gloves? This is the gid right over here. This is the gid. Look at this. You see this gid? This is the gid anosha right over here. And if you look closely, this is the fat that we're talking about right over here. The chaylev. It's in the gid. You see the gid? It's very strong, this gid. Goes all the way up there. So the machlokes is, do you take off this piece of fat and you just leave this meat gishmak? That's what he's talking about in a second. Or I have to go in deep and take out the fat. It has nothing to do. The Torah says don't eat a gid anasha right over here. Don't eat this. But we're makbid because it's, next to it, part of it, so we take off this fat. But there's machlokes, how much? Okay? So he says like this. That's pretty much it. You have to go deep in and get that fat out. Just up to the meat. That's it. This part. A second ago we said the whole point of Ben Pekua is that you don't have to do shchita. No, a different point. Eating. You're allowed to eat whatever you want. But in eating, Ben Pekua is for eating. Limute, what does it come to exclude? Roivai v'charish. That since it's a real animal, so you don't view it as just like a limb of an animal. So there's a isser of revia, bestiality on this animal, and also the isser of plowing like this. Just there's this is chamar v'shor yachtav. Beautiful. It's considered 2 different types of animal. It's considered a real animal, so you're not allowed to plow with another animal. If it's mutter to eat the fat of an animal, so you're allowed to eat the blood of the animal. They're interchangeable. They're connected. Not interchangeable. What's the word I'm looking for? Inter something. Maybe interdependent. Interdependent. If you're not allowed to eat the chaylev, you're not allowed to eat the blood. But if you're allowed to eat the chaylev, you're allowed to eat the blood. Even if you're allowed to eat the fat, it's no connection to the blood. Blood is also fat is mutter. It seems like a bomb question. It says in our Mishnah, what do? You cut open the animal and you get rid of the blood. So you see, you're not allowed to eat the blood. Omer Zera, you're right, you're not allowed to eat the blood. But what Rish Lakish meant to say is that the strong isser of kares, kol nefesh v'toichel kol dam v'nichrasa, that we don't have. Lo ymer shein onush kares. Why? Because the isser kares is only on dam nefesh. What's dam nefesh? There's dam nefesh and dam tamtis. The blood that comes out in a burst, that's dam nefesh. That's where the kares is. The rest of the blood that trickles out, I'm going to show you videos, so if you're sensitive to blood, do not watch this. This is dam nefesh. Right there, dam nefesh. And then it starts trickling. The trickle is also to eat, but no kares. That's what he says. Now, in a uber, there's no dam nefesh. L'man kamrina. As the Gemara, it sounds like a great answer, but if you do the math, it doesn't work. Because we're only trying to figure it out according to Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda says there's no difference between dam nefesh and dam tamtis. So this answer doesn't work. Why are we only trying to figure it out according to Rabbi Yehuda? Because Rabbi Yehuda is the one that holds what? Chaylev is mutter. You're trying to say chaylev is mutter, but dam is also not. There's no difference according to Rabbi Yehuda himself between dam tamtis and dam hanefesh. Rabbi Yehuda lo yelo dam tamtis. The sanya dam tamtis ba'azara. Rabbi Yehuda being kares, even dam tamtis, the trickle you get kares. Tikkun Rabbi Yisrael of Salach Hasidik Kamei Papa is Rabbi Yehuda dam b'chol dam. No, you're right, but it could go according to Rabbi Yehuda, because in this case of a fetus, he has a special pasuk. that tells me dam and kol dam. Here we go, kol dam. In a regular animal, you're right. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if there's a chiyuv on both, dam tamsis, dam nefesh also. But in our case of a ubar, by a fetus, there's no dam nefesh. There is no Isser of Damatamsis. We'll stop over here because we are late. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shiur today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.